How much should a filmmaker pay themselves?
Whatever they can. I mean, at the end of the day, it depends. When I say filmmaker, I think about me, I'm involved concept to delivery. I just got into it with somebody the other day who worked on our last film, and they worked, I think, 4 to 6 weeks on break even. I just celebrated my 27th month on the film last week. Now, we lost 5 months of COVID, but during the COVID time, we had to repurpose our distribution outlets, what we were going to do. So I ended up dealing with a whole new list of deliverables, whole new group of people with different QC demands, for quality control, for release. So, there are people on that film that worked 3 or 4 weeks and got paid a hell of a lot more than I did. And, here I am, I'm literally like almost 2.5 years in, and I wouldn't change a thing about it. I don't do it for the money. I do it because I love to do it. I enjoy the process. But, I always say, be fair. You're going to have an investor that you want to be able to have an open books relationship with. If you have an investor that says, I'd like to see the books, you don't want to, that's not a good position to be in. There are plenty of people you can Google in Hollywood who have gone to prison. I always say, just when you hand an investor a budget, you live by it. And you can put clauses in your financing agreement that say, hey, if we come in under budget, I get to keep it. Or if I come in under budget, let's split what's left. Or, but I think whatever you can pay yourself, if you're raising the money, you're creating the content, you're creating jobs for, on break even 125 people, get what you can. Because you're going to give the money back to your investors, I trust. So you may never see another dime, So I never try to tell people what they should or shouldn't pay themselves. I just say, if you were the investor of the film and your filmmaker was being paid what you're paying yourself, would you feel comfortable looking? Would you be okay looking at those books? And I think if you can answer yes, that's fine. I've never had an investor ask me in 30 years of raising independent money how much I'm paying myself. I've had their lawyer ask me once. One time I had a lawyer ask me, and I've never been asked since. And I was very direct with the lawyer. At the time, I belonged to 4 unions, and I said, well, I'm a union member for the following guilds. I will be doing all 4 of these jobs on the film. I am not going to be taking my union rates. I have parked my union membership so I could do this project. This is what I normally get paid. Here's what I'm doing it for. And he was like, wow, okay. And he was like, I just didn't know. I thought he was questioning my value. He just was curious. But I say, you're going to be, every film is a love affair. You're going to walk away from it scarred, heartbroken, chipped teeth, black eyes, gray, bald, fat, thin. It's gonna do this to you. You're gonna lose 20 pounds in pre-production, you're gonna put on a few pounds during production, and you're gonna put on 25 pounds in post. So I just say, be fair to yourself. Realize that this is gonna be probably a year to an 18-month process, and what is your time worth? And don't bankrupt the project because you have to be greedy or get paid. Budget yourself accordingly. You're a line item. Every job you do is a line item. If you're writing the script, you should be paid as a writer. If you're producing, you should be paid as a producer. If you're directing it the same and editing it the same. If you're supervising music and doing post-production and deliverables, that costs money. Somebody's got to get paid to do it, right? So.
Which production taught you the most? You don't have to name names or the name of the movie or who you work with, but it just taught you the most, whether it was something about yourself, whether it was something about how you were working with people. Something where it changed you in a lot of ways. Could be for better or worse.
I grew up, as you know, doing independent shoestring thread budgets with my dad. I mean, we were doing films that had $1 million budgets for 20 grand back in the day when we were shooting in film. And I learned, so you have to learn so much if you're going to make it work. I mean, we literally did these films on crews of 3 to 5. So you could be shooting a camera and you could be also holding a boom pole and mixing an FP32 mixer on your hip as you're trying to pull focus and shoot. And you kind of become those musicians that wear the cymbals on their knees and the bass drum and the tambourine on their head. And you kind of do a lot of that. I think I got shaped doing those. The first major film I produced was a $12 million film for Miramax back in the day. And it was frustrating because I knew how to do so much and wasn't allowed. But what was really cool when we got there, I still got to do so much. I'd co-written the script and I'd produced the film. I was one of the producers of the film. And before we were done, I ended up doubling for one of the big stars. I ended up cutting the film and ended up being, working with the post supervisors and the music supervisors. And I got to do a lot of things again. And that was really fun. And it reminded me that, when you work in big budget film, it's funny, there's people to do everything. It's spread out so much. But I come from a place where everybody did so much. And I like when everybody does so much. And what's funny is after living in COVID, going back to work where the demands or the crews are smaller, the people who know how to do much are the ones who are going to be called. Because I know when we're crewing up for this new film that we're gearing up to do, everybody's got to be able to do a lot of things. I mean, even my camera operators, they got to be able to do a lot of things. It's no longer hair, makeup, and wardrobe and props. It's one person who's going to handle all four of those. It's the only way it's going to work, And so I learned from everything. Every production I've ever done, Karen, I learned from, and I appreciate each experience. I learned something new on every show.
What's the worst piece of advice you've received and it actually turned out to be true, but at the time when you heard it, you thought, I'm not listening to this person?
Worst piece of advice I ever got that turned out to be true. Whew. I think the worst advice I ever got that turned out to be true was something that my photo teacher taught me in my senior year in high school, Mr. Ken Neely. He called me in after class one day and he said, I'm worried about your future. He said, you're a jack of all trade, master of none. And I said, what do you mean? He said, well, you're here in photo class, you're doing okay, you take a decent picture. He goes, you race dirt bikes, you play drums in a band, and you've won an Emmy already. He's like, what's your plan, dude? Like, you gotta and I got really concerned about that, and I gave up a lot of things in my life because of that. And what's weird is, I don't know if that was bad advice, but it was true. And I didn't listen to the advice, and I just became this guy that did a lot of things that I do well enough to work and to stay relevant. Am I a great storyteller? No. Am I a great director that's putting the world on their ear? No. Not reinventing the wheel. Am I a great editor that's gonna, come up with a way to cut a film differently than anybody else has? No. So I'm not able to put all of my energy into one thing. I am really glad now that I'm almost 50, I've been able to stay working for as long as I have because I did become a jack of all trade. I don't think if I had listened to his advice and not pumped the brakes after a year and a half of getting rid of everything in my life that was important to me, I would have truly learned the craft of everything I could. So I know that's not the answer to the question you asked, but that is the one thing that has constantly haunted me over the years, was the advice. Did I do it right? What did I give up? And then how did I reboot myself? And then I look later and I go, well, I've actually been, I'm okay. So,
Did you tell other people about that conversation and did they steer you away from doing too much?
It's funny, every time I start a film, everybody tells me, you do too much, we're gonna be here to support you. You do too much, we're gonna take a lot of it off you. And I don't know if it's me not truly embracing and trusting the people I work with enough to trust that that's gonna happen or it's going to be okay. I'm not a control freak. I'm very hands-on. But I've also been around too many productions when people assume somebody's going to take care of something, and it's unacceptable when they fall through the cracks. And I'm just somebody that knows if I handle it, it won't. Doesn't mean I'm perfect. It doesn't mean I'm great. It just means that I know if it's on my list of to-dos, I know if it's on my list of to-dos, it's going to get done. And I'm very hard to trust people with doing those things. So, again, I don't know if I'm answering your question properly, but you know, I have spent my entire career being told by people, well, we just want you to direct and we just want you to deal with this. And I haven't been able to do that because, you know, I haven't felt that, I haven't had the peace in my heart to do that. And I wish I had. And it's nothing anybody has done. It's my own problem. It's not somebody has dropped the ball or let me down. It's that fear. It's waking up at 2 a.m, as I talk about in the book, in a sweat, scared to death the wrong actor is going to show up tomorrow, scared to death that we didn't get a permit, scared to death that we didn't order the drone or whatever. And I know if I'm handling it, it's not going to fall through the cracks.
But it sounds like, too, you love to be busy.
I do.
You're like ambidextrous. You're always doing things.
ADHD, but same difference, right?
Or Gemini. You have Gemini.
no,
yeah, so you
yeah.
just, certain people just love to be, they just have certain ways about them. They love to be busy. And
I love to be busy. I'd love not to be as busy as I am, but I always find that I'm never not. I'm never still. I'm never still. And I always say I'm going to stop taking things on, and then 3 days go by and I'm sitting here looking at 4 other projects that I just committed to get involved with. What was I thinking? But somehow, some way they get done.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I mean, I think just certain people are hardwired differently.
I am. Definitely hardwired differently.
But no, I mean, not in a bad way. But just wanting to stay, or they have a TV show on, they're cleaning something over here, they're looking at Twitter. There's just some people.
I don't vacation well. I don't take days off. I don't vacation. Luckily, my wife is kind of. We love our little world and what we do, and we're not people that take 2 weeks every year to go do anything. You know, we take day trips once every week or every other week. Go do fun things. We're always together. I mean, we both work from home, so we're together all the time. So we have our time together. But I never, oh my God, I got to get away and go to Hawaii, or I need to jump on a plane and go somewhere. You know, it's never been in my DNA.
No cruises?
No, God, no.